a warm welcome to you, all of you, with no further ado, and just tell you that today the reason we've given you access also to the videos, because this is not a presentation, it's not a lecture, it's a conversation, and we would love for you to be involved in this conversation with us. Today, it's not just about telling you to survive in this challenging world, but it's about telling you how to thrive in this world. I was just talking to Jo before we started the conversation, and I told her, Jo, how are you? And she said, oh, I'm surviving. And I said, that's exactly what's happening to each and every one of us. We are feeling overwhelmed in a world that's constantly changing. We're feeling like there's too much to do as a practitioner. And sometimes it's just really nice to come together and to remind ourselves that we're not alone, but also to refresh our minds and bring back that passion, bring back the energy that we are here for, which is to practice, to give our clients and patients the best outcome possible, but also to bring that confidence, to bring that happiness in our day-to-day. So that's one of the reasons we're doing what we're doing today. And today's conversation is about two practitioners, but also two founders who have been navigating a very difficult landscape, which is the healthcare landscape that we are seeing today. One of those founders is me, and the other is my colleague and my friend, Jo Gamble, who needs no introduction, who is UK's first functional medicine practitioner, who has a thriving clinic called Embracing Nutrition, who is a lecturer and also someone who you can turn to for complex issues. And I know a lot of you know her because of that. Hello, Jo, and welcome.
Hi, Romina, and hello to everybody. Lovely to be here.
Lovely to have you with us. And one of the reasons we wanted to do this session as well is that we're not just practitioners today. We are entrepreneurial practitioners, meaning we're having to do two things. We're having to wear two hats at the same time, which is one of being a practitioner, a clinician, but also wearing the hat of being an entrepreneur, a businesswoman or a businessman. And we're looking at two economies here. We're looking at the economy of reaction, where we're just letting things happen to us. We're letting things roll and we're saying the market or the industry is difficult. Or we're going into the economy of strategy. We are being proactive. We are making strategies to ensure we are going to be successful in this world where there are equal amounts of opportunities for every one of us. And before we dive into what we want to share with you, I think it's important as two founders, Jo, that we tell them a little bit about our stories of how we started our businesses, especially you, Jo, coming from a place of having a business, where you have a thriving clinic with clients and patients. And tell us a little bit about the journey and the beginning of it all.
Okay, so I originally trained as a behavioral therapist out of university. I specialized in autistic children. I had a very interesting start to life. I got to work with the amazing Dr. Andrew Wakefield, who I remember sitting in one of his lectures. I was honestly 17, 18 years old, and him sitting there and saying, MMR has impacted autism, but there's a part of the story we don't fully understand. Now, that sort of sat in my head, and I was really hungry for that information back then. But, nutrition, functional medicine didn't really exist. But I did even then know that the children who went on the gluten casein-free diets made more progress with a behavioral intervention than those that didn't. So that was my first career, and started my family quite young. Many of you know my story. My daughter got diagnosed with juvenile arthritis at 19 months old, got put on a chemotherapy drug at 3, and I nearly lost her within 6 weeks of her starting that drug. I'd already said to her doctors, what could I do? And they were like, nothing. Surely there's something else that I can help her with. No, nothing. You've just got to inject her with the drug. So that night was New Year's Eve. She was 3 years and 10 days old, and she was in intensive care, and the fireworks were going off outside to celebrate the new year. And I didn't know she'd make the day. I didn't know she'd make the night, let alone the year. And I sat there that night and went, I have to take control because I will lose her. So that's what got me to find a naturopath. It's what got me to train. It's got what got me to be passionate. So I trained at CNM many moons ago. I love nutrition, then trained in herbal medicine, but it didn't give me the why. That's always been my interest. Why? Why did my daughter get sick? Not one, but four autoimmune diseases in the end. What did Andrew Wakefield mean when he stood there and look, a young innocent teenager still in the eye and go, we know MMR has an impact, but it's not the, well, of course, that was genomics, nutrigenomics. It was the terrain theory. It was looking at the gut microbiome. So I was kind of blessed to be put in these scenarios. I'm pretty sure I could have found this information a different way to my daughter getting sick, but you know what? I'm blessed. So that's what got me to study functional medicine. Like you said, the day they announced that they were going to certify functional medicine, I stood there that day and said, I'm going to be the first. And that's not because I'm egoic, Romina. It's because the quicker I got there, the quicker I could find the whys to support her, the whys to support others. And I guess cancer, as many of you know, my speciality is in cancer, is more about my daughter's journey from the side effects of the drugs than cancer itself. I'm probably quite unique that I specialize in oncology and cancer hasn't, I'm blessed, but hasn't riddled my family. Like for some of you, it has. Um, but the but working with the drugs, her disease was never going to kill her, but her drug nearly did. And that's what got me passionate. So then I did my fellowship in integrative oncology, studied with Nisha as a metabolic practitioner, and that's kind of where I am today. Now, for many years, I was a one-woman band, um, and I couldn't serve all the people that needed serving. So that's what got me to grow my team. I now have a team of 8. There's 8 practitioners. We specialize in kind of all areas of health. I've got 3 in my cancer team, and then others that serve, everything from pediatrics to cardiovascular to menopause to infertility. So that's my story. And I would say sitting underneath it is huge amount of passion. I always laugh and say I'm not the cleverest person in the world. I know you're going to ask me a question in a minute, so I'm not going to jump to it, but I'm not the cleverest person in the world. But what I have is an abundant amount of passion, of empathy, and desire. And that comes through in all of the work that I do. And, sometimes people say to me, but, I'm not that book smart. No, you don't need to be book smart. You need to care. And that I have an abundant amount of. And so can anybody have an abundant amount of that. So, in short, that's my journey.
Thank you, Joe. That's very, very inspiring because the lessons I'm learning from what you're saying is, forget about the money at the beginning. It's not about the money. It's not about trying to make ends meet in a way, but you've had a story of a reaction where you've had a family issue, your daughter, etc. And that's translated into having a drive to prevent, preventative medicine. And that passion is something that's led you then to have from being a one-woman band to, an 8-person clinic, which
Yeah.
for me, that's a huge blessing because you're also constantly learning from these different modalities as well, the fertility, etc. Because I kept thinking, I'll be honest, Joe, I've been thinking for a few years, how does Joe know so much? If I put her on the spot, whether it's hormones, whether it's autism, or whether it's cancer, how come she knows so much in every specialty? Because usually people just get into a niche.
Yeah.
For me, that was it's a question I've had for a long time. How come she's so well gifted in so many specialties?
But my speciality that goes across all of them is the desire to understand why. That's what functional medicine brings. So you're right, whether it's infertility, whether it's complex cases, whether it's cancer, whether it's autoimmunity, kind of starting off by really understanding the terrain underneath all of them is so important. And that's the difference between functional medicine, integrative approaches, and kind of conventional medicine. Pill for an ill, asking why. And you know what? One of my other most passionate questions to ask a client sitting in front of me is, why do you think you got sick? Why do you think you struggle? Why do you think your body attacked your body? Because my experience is that they have been with their body for a long time. We are just meeting their body for the first time. And yet, how often, when you went to the doctors, did anybody ever say to you, what do you think? I mean, these sorts of questions, I would say my biggest skill set is getting the information out of the clients and then putting the pieces of the jigsaw puzzle together. And Romina, you can apply that to anything.
I agree. I agree. You can apply it to anything. But again, another question, I know we're jumping. Can you apply it to having a more successful clinic?
Do you know what? Again, I think you can. So let's go there. So today, let me say, where did today get born from? So today got born at IPM when we were sitting in the coffee shop talking about what does the British population want. Now, I don't know if we've got anybody outside of Britain, but for today, well, that was our conversations. And as many of the listeners know, I had joined Dr. Christy Hughes, who is a dear friend, colleague, everything to me, on the stage in London to do the Metabolic Health Conference. Christy and I are coming back together in Dublin, which I'm sure you will tell everybody about Dublin in a minute. And one of the things that Christy and I do a really great job of together on the stage is pull all together the keynote speakers and give people the takeaways, how to apply it in clinical practice, because both her and I are clinicians on the ground. Okay, like yourself and like many of our listeners today, clinicians on the ground. So whilst we can have these amazing keynote speakers like Dr. Carrie Jones at Metabolic Health Conference, Dr. James Kinross, and in Dublin, how do you as a clinician bring it to life? So that's what Christy and I did. But what I was listening to at IPM, at the last conference that we did is, yeah, but if you haven't got clients walking in the door, how is it, what's the point in bringing it to life? And that's what got me thinking, and that's what got us talking, and that's what got us passionate about. It's bringing in all of this. The Nutrition Collective brings some amazing education. And there are people out there doing kind of mentorships, one-to-one, that people invest quite a lot of money. But actually, what a lot of people want, need, feel that they're missing is kind of this group collective of people going on the journey with them. So when you ask the question, can you apply it? Yeah, you can. I have always been self-employed. I never went to business school. I am not an expert in social media. There's lots of things of running a business I'm not confident or proficient at. I might bring in those services. Um, but what I know is I know the target audience, and that target audience is only going to grow and grow, Romina, because as both of us know, there's more chronically ill people. There's a less good medical service available, like GP care, much longer wait lists for services on the NHS. So this kind of market is only going to grow. So one of the things I love to do is not just know the market, but inspire people to be able to serve the target market. So can we apply it to business? Yes. Did I go to business school? No. Do I need to
I
go to
love
business
that.
school? No.
And you don't need it.
Nope.
We'll jump onto that in the second part of the session, but I wanted to take a couple of the things that Jo has said today, when it comes to the business side of things and her journey, setting up her clinic, setting up Embracing Nutrition, and kind of translate it, maybe not to my journey, but explain that there are contrasts because people are different. Whilst Jo has taken, she is an entrepreneur and she has a set of clients and practitioners. We don't have, we're not serving the end client, we're not serving the patients, but still setting up a business in the healthcare space takes, I do believe, for both yourself and myself, a lot of courage because it is a changing landscape. Whilst I agree with you, Jo, there's a lot of, people are becoming more chronically sick, but we are also having a lot of red tape within the NHS, within, different arenas. There's a lot of red tape, there's a lot of skepticism, And it's not that easy to navigate it without having the right tools, I would say. And, whilst my story is not exactly a health story in my family, although I did see cancer in my family, although my sister did have a stroke, for me, it was that after I graduated in college and nutrition, I just felt there is such a big gap between what I'm getting in college versus what I actually need in clinical practice on a day-to-day. So if I have someone with autism coming to me, if I have a complex case of someone who has autism where you're looking at preventative medicine and you were trying to delay the cancer, I was looking at, I don't know where to get this information. So I knew there was a very big hole in that learning process. And it was not easy to set up because, just like you, I was self-employed, but I did come from a business background. I'd done sales, I'd done business, I'd been burnt out, and I hated the financial world because it was driven by the greedy money factor. And I realized that I did want to do something where I would bring some good to others. And I did want to serve, at the end, I do want to serve the client as well, because I do want to serve the chronically ill, but I want to give everybody the tools to be able to serve these people in the right way. So for me, it was constantly that drive that, I can have 10 patients, or I can get everybody, to have enough patients or clients to support them in that journey, so that we make sure that client comes back and is happy with the services that the practitioner provides. And that's how I set up the Nutrition Health Collective. And, I'll take the $1 million question for you, Joe, because I wanted these two questions to come into light for everybody. That's whether you've already set up, whether you are setting up, or whether you're struggling at the moment, or if you're just feeling a little bit demotivated. I want to know, Joe, from your side, as I said, it takes a lot of courage, but what for you, I know you talked about the passion. I know you talked about the compassion that you have for clients, but what was that biggest shift from, what you said in the beginning of being a behavioral therapist to you moving into, I want to study nutrition, but in terms of the mindset and then starting embracing nutrition clinic, what was your mindset shift? I want to know, Joe.
Okay, so it shifted. It's not linear, and this is what's important. Like I always say, me as a practitioner, I've grown phenomenally over the last 18 years, not just in my book knowledge, but in my belief system. So I guess at the beginning, it was very much about, I want to fix my daughter. And then as I went through that journey, meeting other people, what can I do to help other people? That was my passion. I want to help everybody. I didn't want other people to be in that situation I was in if I could change that. So I guess that was my original shift. Then I got into the shift of, I want to be able to deliver this to as many people as possible via different mechanisms. Not everybody can afford one-to-one. Can we do education? Can we put free stuff out there on social media? Like, what can we do to reach as many people as possible? But I would say to you, over the last probably 5 years, my biggest shift has been personally. So anybody who knows me know I had a baby, which was crazy because I'd had a baby 18 years previously. And somewhere along the line in COVID, I thought it was a good idea to go back and start again. So when we were making the decision to have baby number 2, she's going to turn 4 next month, I knew that I needed to change my headspace to be able to be a mum and carry on being an entrepreneur. I'm going to be honest, the first 6 months were tough. I was catching a baby, breastfeeding a baby, and then throwing her back out the door. It was hard. Anybody that's got children knows how hard that is. But what I wasn't going to do is change what I can do for other people. I wanted to do it all. That's my headspace. But honestly, hand on my heart, what my biggest shift has been is focusing on me. Because if I don't focus on me, I can't focus on other people. So me personally, and I'm not saying this is what everybody else has to do, it's my spirituality, it's my meditation practice, it's my belief system, it's my belief on how much, if I throw something out to the universe is going to deliver. That's the crazies in me. And I always say that to people. I am slightly crazy and I love my crazies. But honestly, this isn't about how many of you have heard the concept of you've got to walk your talk. And most people are going, okay, so I've got to eat the organic diet and I've got to, eat my diversity and I've got to feed my microbiome and I've got to do my lab testing. Yeah, I believe all that. I do believe all that. But more than anything, Romina, my belief has to come from me. So the more I serve me, the more I serve other people. And my clients see that. I had a client this morning in tears because she said, "You get me. Nobody's got me." And again, that wasn't my belief. That was talking about the impact that her sexual abuse had had on her. She's been a patient for I don't know, 6 years, and we've done all the RA work and the gut microbiome work and the diversity. And actually, what we sat with was the impact of her emotional trauma. So I know that possibly wasn't what you expected to hear, although Romina, you know I'm a bit crazy. So, that doesn't come as a shock. And anybody who knows me knows I'm a little bit crazy. But actually, what I say my crazes are is my belief of how important my own journey is. And for me, that goes way beyond food, because once you've made those changes, you've made them. Once you've gone organic, once you've got the right cookware, once you've got it. The work I've done in the last 5 years is on my heart, my soul, and that's what has driven the business forward. Because I've grown the business massively since COVID. I've grown the business whilst breastfeeding a child, whilst trying to be a mum and an entrepreneur, and how I did that was my self-care.
I love that. And I want to be testimonial of that because, I told you that in college, you were one of my lecturers. And, now I'm at the Nutrition Collective, founded this. But I'm talking about 10 years ago, I saw you come into the room. I heard some of your webinars. And I just wanted to know, where does this woman get her confidence from? Because when you speak, everybody feels like listening to you. You have that gift of being very confident. But I feel this, from what you're telling me, stems from a solid self-belief that you have and self-care that you've built on over and over the years, which then shines through not just across us, but your patients, your clients. And the other thing I want to say about you, and it just happened a few days ago, I've had this broken hand, not broken hand, but I got drilled into and got completely burnt, my hand. It's been 3 weeks. And it was just a random message to Jo about today's event. And she said, "Oh, what happened?" I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not well." And she said, "What happened?" And she wanted to know all the details. And I was thinking in my head, I don't want to tell Jo all of this. She can't be bothered. She's got zillions of other things to do. But she insisted. She was like, "I want to know exactly what it is. Send me a picture of your hand." And immediately, you won't believe this, I've spoken to lots of different practitioners, colleagues, dermatologists, doctors. None of them picked up that my problem had to do with a circulation in my hand, because the wound is there, but my wound is not healing quickly. So that ability to be very present, Jo, for me, is also one of your biggest mindset shifts, in my opinion. I know we're asking you the question, but I'm telling you, you're so present that in a second you were able to observe what my problem was, my health issue, and tell me, "I think this is a circulation problem. You need more blood flow from your extremities don't have circulation." And no one else picked up on this, in spite of me having long conversations with them. And we didn't even have a conversation about it. It was one voice note with you. So your ability to be present, I think that's a very big gift that I think is important in the mindset. When you are present with a client, you're absolutely present at every moment. You're honoring your present moment. And I really,
only way you can do that, Romina, is honoring it genuinely in yourself. As in, you can't be present if you're not really present. And that's why I had to share that has been my biggest shift, is my presence, to give them the gifts that I have to others. But you can't give those gifts if they're not inside of you.
I love that. By the way, I didn't see the the messages coming through, and I'm glad, Rachel, you've said some really important things. Rachel's one of our members, and I love her to bits. And what she said, Jo, is the why of clients' condition and taking care of yourself are the two top priorities for me.
Nice.
I love that. Thank you, Rachel. I really love that. And you're also saying, I learned the hard way and laid on the floor in pain for 3 months, looking at the ceiling and asking why. Rachel is a nutritionist who focuses on corporate businesses. So I think you have a lot of experience, Rachel. I'm glad you're saying this, but it takes 3 months. You're right. It takes time to look at yourself and say, why am I doing this? Why am I going to be catering to in the corporate business world if I don't have the passion? So I love that. I'd love you to get more involved in the second part of this, Rachel. And then there's another Rachel who said, wow, sitting in a lecture with Andy Wakefield, what a privilege.
That was a privilege.
Mindset shift for me is eerily similar to what Joe said, but I had these fears where I went from finishing college to working for lots of different supplement companies, being part of an education board of one of the colleges, and realizing there was a true gap. And I was like, oh, I need to find another job now to make sure this gap is filled. And I remember someone from it's actually Michael from the Natural Dispensary. Interestingly, I'd spoken to him, and he said to me, look, Romina, this is a huge gap. I've known it for years, he said. And if you don't do this, I'm going to go and start it. So this should be a motivation to just get out there and start it. And I said, you know what? I think I should stop working for other people. And even if I have this fear, even if I fail, I'm going to give it a try and I'm going to give it my all and I'll see what happens. And I remember the day, Joe, interestingly, you were part of the beginning because I was at RSM.
Yep.
And again, it was the right time, the right place, and maybe the right mindset. But I was open. I was saying yes to every opportunity that came my way. And I remember I was sitting in RSM and there was this medical doctor I'd met, in one of the events. And he said, oh, Romina, I remember you said you're interested in doing events. I'm having an event at the RSM, but I'm only going to be using the venue for half a day. But I was forced to book it for the full day. Would you like to use the RSM halls to do an event? And I said, look at this. Someone is coming to me, giving me a free venue to host an event. I had no tools. I had no one. I just said, I'm going to call up the people I know, and I want to do something around cancer and hormones. And I said, there's a missing link here. No one's talking about this. I'm talking about 6 years ago. No one was talking about cancer and hormones, the missing link. Today we know the link, but 6 years ago, Joe, I called you and I said, let's do an event. And it's at the RSM and you didn't even question me. You just said yes. You said yes without thinking. And the same happened with the 3 other speakers. They just said yes to me. And on the day, we had 90 people in the room.
It was amazing. There was even people sitting on the stairs because they couldn't get across to seats. It was phenomenal.
So for me, that was my validation that I have a fear. I'm doing this. I might be making the biggest mistake of my life, but I'm going to do it anyways. And something brought me an opportunity. I said yes. And then, after that, it was about self-care and self-belief, Joe. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because I needed one little validation, but then once I got that validation, I knew I'm down the right path and I need to continue doing this and push through. And it is a lot of hard work. So that self-belief and the self-care, 100%, I agree with you, Joe. But the biggest mind shift as well is I was willing to do the hard work. I said yes to doing it, but it didn't feel like hard work because I enjoyed it. It was purpose-driven and not money-driven. I want to quickly shift because we have so many other questions. But tell me one thing, Joe, that tested you in this setting up, embracing. I know you said you started in COVID.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it was less about the setup. And I suppose when I was thinking about this question, I'm going to say COVID. So, whether I answer this from a point of view of COVID or financial recession, or our environment is never going to be linear, from politics to health to finances and we have to, as entrepreneurs, as practitioners, we have to ride the storm. And I remember when COVID struck, and thinking, I had a full-time clinic that I had a contract to pay for the building, and I wasn't covered by the government because of how they did it. So, or when the government was giving handouts, didn't get handouts. So I was still having to pay my rent, but I couldn't use the building. And I remember sitting there in March 2020 and saying, I need to kind of stay true to this. And I could have gone into fear. I could have gone, and I didn't. I went into, what do people need? What do people want? I ran free programs to bring people together, because at that point, I didn't think it was about making extra money out of it. I went live every day for 3 months to again have a voice to people who needed confidence, answered some of those questions about the health side to it, the what they could be in control of. So COVID, for many practitioners here, went through COVID. COVID was one of the biggest kind of waves that we have lived through as an industry. But I suppose I'm using that, and it might be next, then off the ricochet of financial, of saying, let's take the finances. I just have been over in Hawaii, and I was sat at Heathrow Airport. I flew on my own. So I was sitting there, people watching. I'm like, people are spending money. There was no shortage of money going through Heathrow Airport. So why are we so worried that people aren't going to spend money on healthcare or wellness? Because there's thousands of people going through Heathrow Airport that day, spending money in the shops and the restaurants and everything else. It's about us keep explaining to people how important this is for their future. So, whatever the challenge, COVID, recession, politics, whatever, the answer is we all need wellness to be able to ride that storm. So, yep, it brought some challenges. Yep, we had to pivot a bit. That's when I took my business fully online, like many people did. But I spoke to my people and I asked them what they wanted, what they needed. I listened and I delivered.
So I'm hearing two things. You gave 3 months of free support to everybody for 3 months, every
Yeah,
day
I
live.
went live every day. If people wanted to ask questions, they would email in. I went live every day, from everything from the importance of melatonin regulation, because melatonin gave us a better outcome if we had COVID, to why would you take this immune product versus that? What can you do through diet? How to handle the world we're in where we're using alcohol gels all the time. People asked all sorts of random but
Yeah.
important questions. And I found the best information I could, but I stood true. And every day I went on and showed my face.
Wow. And number two, what I'm hearing is actually this limiting belief that there isn't enough money for our patients and clients to pay us for what we're doing is just a myth.
I
And
think it is a myth, because at Heathrow Airport, there was no shortage of people. And, you've only got to go sit in a shopping mall or sit in a restaurant. I was in London yesterday. I was sitting in London yesterday. There's no shortage of people spending money. So I think it is a myth, because people are spending themselves out of a recession. It's just about people understanding the importance of where they spend their money.
I agree. I absolutely agree. That's that's huge. And Valerie, thanks for saying what you said. COVID was a turning point for her. I had the biggest mindset shift along with working on my own health and well-being. Yeah, thank you. And I think for me, another testing thing, Joe, was, during COVID and after COVID, it was struggling with the finances, because I think whilst we are trying to get more clients, how do you navigate, trying to people were spending on other things, as you said, but even navigating your own finances, starting the business, paying people in your team, that there are a lot of factors to look into when you're.
Yeah, although during the period that I would call COVID, I went from a team of 2 to a team of 6. So that, to me, I tripled my admin team. There were people out there that were wanting to spend money. It's I get it, and I'm not saying I didn't have my own concerns as the major wage earner, as the person who was responsible for paying for private school fees and mortgages and everything else. I get it. But people were still wanting to spend money on wellness because they needed to.
Absolutely. And Kelly, I know Kelly as well. She's been a practitioner for many years. Kelly's saying I increased my prices and
Yeah,
found
me
that
too.
bookings increased. So absolutely 100% true.
Yeah.
Um, I also wanted to see what you said here, Kay. Mindset shift is a big win and continues to be the greatest growth factor for me too. Absolutely. The biggest business asset I feel is your mindset. And I know all of you know this. This is not something that is new to you. I know you know this. And I loved what Joe said. You can look at things as an opportunity or you can look at it as a threat. And whilst we know these things exist today, things are going very quickly. The guidelines keep changing for medical doctors. The NHS, there's a lot of red tape. If you're a nutritionist, again, there's a lot of red tape for you because you're not supported in the same way as a dietitian, etc. So everybody has their struggles. I get that. I 100% get that. Digital health is rewriting the book. I mean, AI, everybody's fearful of it. They're either embracing it or you're running away from it. Either way, it's causing a little bit of stir. It's triggering some people. It's causing a bit of fear of, my clients are not going to need me because AI is going to do the reporting instead. So I understand all of these threats are real. People coming to you with all sorts of misinformation or clients knowing a little bit more than they usually do after COVID. That's also real. But we have the learning tools. We know these problems exist. The question is, are we going to let these problems overwhelm us and take over? Or are we going to make sure that even we are able to embrace the fears, we're able to embrace everything that's coming our way and do a little bit like what Joe said, just embrace the problem and become even bigger than the problem. So we can either let the problem overrule us, or we can become bigger than the problem. Our belief in what we do, and the market does not dictate who we are and what we do. We dictate our future. We are the ones that are the change we want to see, literally. So I know this is not reinventing something. I know this is easy to say, but if you don't have the right mindset, you will walk in with fear and you will shine that into every area of your life, as Joe said, because if you are looking at seeing on a spiritual level, I understand, Joe, because I'm very spiritual as well. I feel like whatever you give, you get back 100%. But also on an emotional level, if you go with the mindset that I'm not going to react to the market, but instead I'm going to strategize and I'm going to be positive every day and give myself that love that I deserve, then even a setback feels like, okay, it's just something to improve on. And for me, the way you pivoted, Joe, was beautiful. You gave away 3 months of live to support people. And now people can't get bookings at your clinic, even if you have eight practitioners in your clinic. I know people tell me there's a big waiting list for you. So I know this is not just us talking about it. This is the reality of how you're leading your business. I'm going to skip all this because I feel that, Joe, you have a lot to say and we're running out of time. But I feel like we have spoken about this, getting into identity, the passion, knowing what you enjoy, and then just following that thread. Having the clarity again comes with self-belief, self-love, and then taking ownership or, becoming a true master. This is what I'd like Joe to talk about. And also, Joe, I want you to talk about how do we collaborate? How do we create that micro community? So I'm going to leave this with you now for you to
Okay, thanks, Romina, and back to that conversation in the cafe at IPM and asking what people wanted. They wanted to be able to deliver the information. You can go to as many scientific lectures, but how do you make it clinically applicable? That's something that Romina is great at, pulling people onto the stage to be able to deliver that at the conferences. But then the next sort of level is, how do I create a business? Maybe some of you are just starting out, maybe some of you haven't even quite finished at college, maybe some of you are in the first 1 year, 2 years, or beyond. And one of the things that we are looking at creating and delivering to you is a mentorship program. So what I am going to talk through now is just a snapshot into what that mentorship program will look like. So starting off, finding out who is your community, who is the person you're trying to speak to, because when we're looking at this grey screen in front of me, when I've got a mobile phone at me, who is the other side of that? Who are the people that are listening to me? And that is going to differ from me to you. Are you looking at women's hormones? Are you looking at perimenopause? Okay, so I'd imagine you're looking at women kind of 40 to 50. Are you thinking about infertility? Maybe you're thinking about women 30 to 40. Are you thinking about neuro decline? Maybe you're thinking 50 to 70. So who is your ideal client avatar? Because only when you know who that is, A, do you know where they hang out? I.e., are they Facebookers versus Instagrammers, reading posh magazines versus reading the back pages of The Sun? Only then do you know how to change your tone to meet their needs. You know, when people say to me, oh, I was looking at that on TikTok. I was working with an American client the other day, and she's like, I was talking to her about ashwagandha. And she's like, oh, I've seen that on TikTok, Joe. They sell it as gummies. Okay, so I'm like, you're a TikToker. So therefore, let's talk about the lingo that you are going to be hearing. I mean, she was already a client, or, you know, we'd already got that far. But depending on who it is that you are driving towards, who is your ICA and where do they hang out? Can you flip my slide, Romina? I don't think I can do it. So then once you know who they are, you can speak to that audience. That's when you have conversations like, so for me, I went live on Facebook every day for 3 months. Yeah, we translated it to Instagram. Yes, we've got YouTube accounts. Yes, we've got, but only when you know what it is that what's your sales pitch. So if you look at any advertising on social media, you know, I always laugh. I've talked about something and then that becomes my Facebook feed. That becomes my sales pitch on Facebook all the time. This is the modern day we work in. Now, I am no social media expert, but I know enough to know where my ICA hangs out and how they want to be spoken to. So that's how we speak. So what I'm encouraging you to do is think about who is your ICA and what can you do? What can you take away from today, even without the mentorship? So I want you to build that audience. Now, what I will say to you is if you only build your audience on your mobile phone, social media, Facebook, Instagram, at any point, that account can be shut down. You know that. You don't own that list. The people who own Facebook and Instagram own that list. So I always encourage people to own their own list. Have something like MailChimp or something like that, gathering data, because that's yours to keep. Social media don't like you. They shut your account down. You still have ownership of your own list. Then we've got to think about what content do you want to go out there? Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't spend ages on content. We share it out amongst us. Different people do different videos. The most content I do is stick this in front of my face and just talk raw to my phone because I don't have the time for big content. But I want you to think about what does content look like for you? Can you do a lead magnet? Can you give away something for free? If I stand in a shop and they say, do you want a paper receipt? Do you know what comes out my mouth? No. Why? Because I don't want to give my email address out. I'm like, give me a paper receipt or don't give me a receipt at all. I am so particular about who gets my email address, not just my work one, but also my private one. Why? Because if not, I spend all my time deleting junk. So the only people who get my email address are people I'm really interested in finding out information from. Does that make sense? I'm not the only person who feels that way. So if I am going to give you my email address, you need to give me something worthy of it. And that is some sort of free content that I can download, I can read, I can digest, I can get something from. So if you've not got free content, why should I give you my email address? And the answer is I'm not going to. And nor would many of our clientele. So you've got to think about, is it a lead magnet? Is it a free book? If you go onto my website, you'll see half a dozen, 8 free ebooks. There's no exchange of money in that. The only exchange we give is an exchange of email address, because then anything else we can talk to that. We can send you out a weekly blog. We can send you out a mail shot. We can. I know it is about making money, but you've also got to say, what is it? How do I warm up my audience? How do I get people to listen, to read, to believe that they can trust me and trust my team? And that will take some rapport, right? If we're going out dating, do you think on our first date, I'm going to give you everything? No, I'm not. I might give you a little bit of personal information about you. I might show you a bit of my personality. By the way, I haven't been out dating for years, so I'm the wrong person to talk about dating apps. But, using that as an analogy, would I give you everything on the first date? No. Why? Because that's too vulnerable. Why would you expect your clients to give you all the information? Why would you expect your clients to trust you on the first date? There's got to be this concept of the power of 3. Maybe they've read something on a blog. Maybe they've watched me on YouTube or seen me on social media, and they're like, that's somebody I trust. That's somebody I'm prepared to work with. That's somebody I'm prepared to hold vulnerable space. And that needs to come from that rapport building. So if you haven't got a free giveaway, you need to think about how you create one. Whether it's recipes, whether it's a quiz, whether it's an ebook, there's got to be something worthy of exchange. And then once they have given you that email address, it's about not spamming them. Again, somebody spams me, I'm out of there. But it's about giving that reliability. Oh, every Wednesday at 9 o'clock, I'm going to get an email with a free recipe off Joe. Drop into my inbox. That's awesome. I look forward to that. And really engage with the audience in the same way I'm engaging with you now. It's not about me telling you the deepest dark of my intimate relationships, but it's about giving you enough of me that you trust me, that you want me to come on this journey with you. Not that I'm really clever and I can memorize every genomic snip. I can prove that to you. Well, not every, but a lot. Okay. But is that what you want from me? Or do you want me to hear you, to see you, to take you on a journey? That's the difference. So if you haven't got a free giveaway, that's your homework from today, to create one and to build that rapport and that relationship. You move me on, please, Romina. So if you've got a free giveaway, they're prepared to give it to you. I know I would be for a free ebook. It's worthy of reading. Don't make it 90 pages long, because I wouldn't read anything. Maybe 5, 6 pages with maybe half a dozen take homes. If you do this, 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 and this, you're going to start to feel better. Your hormones are going to be in better balance, or you're going to deal with your constipation, or you don't give away everything that they then don't need to book in a consult. You give away enough. That's what's important. And then if we move on to the next slide, then once you've got that, you can be really proactive around marketing. What does marketing look like? Like I said, I'm no social media expert. I pay somebody to be in charge of our social media because I don't have the time. But what I do know is how to interact with people. Like I said, the power of 3. We have a newsletter, we have social media accounts, we run campaigns, we have a phone line where people can phone in, we do discovery calls so people can get to us before they've paid for us. We run Facebook adverts, Google AdWords. Like, these are some of the things. I'm not saying you need to do all of them, but these are some of the things that we're going to talk about and look at where best to spend your money. But when you're thinking about spending your money, you want to think about what your client is worth. So if you just move over to the next slide, I think I'm on worth. Oh no, we're sharing content. We've already talked about that. If you do a newsletter, you then share it onto social media. So just think about the worth of your client. So if your initial consult is £200 or one, whatever it is, we'll go with 4 consults is going to cost you £400. But then how much you're going to earn from supplements, how much you're going to earn from testing, what's the repetitiveness? So if you say the lifetime value of a client is £1,200, then is it worth spending £50 to get that client? It's about, like Romina said, it's about getting past the headspace. It's about feeling the fear and doing it anyway. And then it's about going, who else can be sending clients my way? So if we look at the next stage and go, who's in our professional referral network? The more you connect with your network, the more they bring people in. These people might not cost you a penny because they're coming because these other practitioners have a trust factor in you. And maybe they've got a trust factor in you because you've done treatment swaps, but maybe they have because they've watched you on social media. I mean, the amount of people that come to, oh, so-and-so referred me. I'm like, I'm not sure I know who so-and-so is. Oh, you taught them 12 years ago. Great. So I taught somebody 12 years ago and they're now referring somebody to me. That's how it works. That's how we build communities and we speak to our communities. So each of you,
They say that it takes 7 times for someone to trust you, to see you in different modalities, 7 times to then feel like they know you or trust you.
so if you're sitting hiding away in your room, whether it's the poshest of posh offices in central London, if you're hiding away, people don't see you 7 times. And that's one of the limiting factors. Now, 6 of those 7 times might not cost you a penny, as in you don't have to always invest. But again, one of my biggest advertisements is my voice. It's not the paid for, it's about the passion that comes across in my voice.
But
And
again,
then,
Joe, for me, that voice that you have, behind that voice is that self-work that you've done on yourself, the self-care and the self-belief.
yeah,
Because to be camera shy, I completely understand it. It's hard to come on camera, to be raw, as you said. And, you know, Rachel saying she loves that because it doesn't feel curated. The content doesn't feel curated when it's raw. And
yeah.
even the mistakes can be endearing to
Of course
people.
they can, because we're all human at the end of the day. And when you've sat and you wrote a script and you've got a teleprinter, I'm not against that. You know, some of my team use teleprompters. I'm not against it. But when your eyes are doing it's like, where's the heart? Where's the soul behind the brain? And that's what people love is they love all of you. And yeah, do you know what? I might make mistakes when I'm talking, but it's like lecturing. I don't I'm not a robot. I'm a human. And that's what people want to see.
They do, but that self-care comes, the voice comes behind that is the
Of course it
self-care.
does. Of course
For
it
me,
does.
that piece that is very important, that mindset as well.
Yeah.
Once you have that, you're able to take the strategy, Joe, that you've given us and say, I can run with it and I'm going to embrace the fear and I'm going to present anyways. I'm going to
Yeah.
speak anyways. I'm going to reach out to the acupuncturist that is down the road. I walk this down the street every day to take the tube or whatever. I'm going to go there and talk to them and tell them about what I do. I'm going to take that step, you know.
100%. 100%. I think we've got one more. And it's just about organic social media doesn't need to cost us a penny. Yes, it is worthy putting money out there to bring clients in. If their lifetime value is £1,200 and they're going to cost you £50, you've still got £1,150 from that client. That is good investment. But there's also so much free opportunity out there. And the more authentic, the more real you are, the more that is what people will see on social media. And then finally, I think my last slide in this section, Romina, is don't be afraid of talking. You all have knowledge. You all have passion. Like again, people said to me, did you go on public speaking courses? No. I remember to this day, my first lecture, I started lecturing at CNM gonna maybe 17 years ago. And I remember that first lecture and the nerves. I mean, dear God, if you could have seen me shaking, the nerves. people always laugh at me now. They're like, do you worry about going on stage? And if anybody's ever seen me lecture, what's the one thing I say, Romina? No, I'm only worried about falling off the back of the stage, because I really did fall off the back of a stage. Yeah, that's the only thing that I don't get nervous. Why? Because people want to see me speak just like they want to see all of you speak. And I'm not the best keynote speaker. You know, some of the keynote speakers who spend all their time in lab and research, what I am is I'm a clinician that can bring a live clinical application to anybody in that audience, put passion into everybody in that audience, and give them takeaways that they can put into practice on a Monday morning. So whatever your expertise is, people want to hear it.
And you do, because Joe, as I said with my hand, I spoke to many medical doctors and dermatologists, and you were the one that looked at the circulation. You were having that full body approach to looking at what my health was in that moment, which is why we do our conferences. We have these clinical implementation sessions with you. And, you know, I forgot to tell everybody about the Dublin conference that we're hosting on the gut-brain axis. And yes, we have the keynotes, as you said, Joe. But most importantly,
amazing keynotes. Like James Kinross is one of my idols. He's such an amazing speaker. And I think why I love him so much is he's got one foot in the medical world, the NHS and his private clinics, you know, cutting people's colons out. I mean, the first time I lectured with him, Romina, was at Dr. Victoria Sampson's Oralis conference. And
I wanted to tell
the
people
morning,
that's James
the
Kinross. Yes.
morning of the conference, Victoria's on the phone to me, flapping. I've got to change the schedule, Joe. Can I bring you forward? I mean, honestly, doesn't bother me. You can put me anywhere. She's like, James has been called into emergency surgery. He's got to cut somebody's colon out before he comes. He's like, he's a real doctor with a real scalpel, making a real difference. But his other foot is completely in the integrative camp. He stands on stage, he talks about how he's got to get the microbiome diverse. He talks about fecal transplant. He talks about different dietary modalities. He blows out the water, all the fiction that he hears on a daily basis. He is phenomenal. And the same with Dr. Jess. Like, again, I first saw Dr. Jess many years ago in America. I mean, I just looked around in his lecture and it's like the audience is stunned to silence. They are both phenomenal keynotes. There's no point in having keynotes if we can't then make it clinically applicable to the majority of the people that are sitting here today, because we're not colorectal surgeons and we're not researchers. What we are is clinicians. And that's what Christy and I will really bring to the stage, is how to make this applicable.
100%. No, thank you. We're so excited. If you can't come to Dublin, obviously, please come and join us online for the conference. It would be amazing to have you there. I just wanted to go back to what Joe said, because we're going to start. If you want to ask questions, please, we'd love to have a few questions from you. But we've had long conversations with a lot of you, and there is this true need to want to have a mentorship, even if it's a couple of sessions with Joe. It's not an educational mentorship, as Joe said. It's more the idea that, can we bring in strategies? Can we pivot and help you with the business and find ways to make it grow and to bring you that resilience? So if you are interested, we haven't started anything yet. We've just been speaking about it, but that's the link. And Rika, my colleague, is putting the link on the chat as well. Please register your interest, and we'll let you know as soon as possible when we try to design, you know, a couple of sessions where you can come in, you can share with us your business troubles, and, you know, we can make it almost like a workshop where we're doing a business surgery as such with you. So we'd love your attendance to it. Any questions? By the way, you're on video as well, so feel free to ask the questions directly as well, or put it on the chat. We're absolutely all ears for you right now. Who's going to be the first one to ask us a question? Anything in particular? Or if you want to share a comment, you're welcome to. I'm just looking at a few things that were said. Will the conference be recorded if we can't watch it live? Absolutely, Sophie, it will be recorded. We always live stream our conferences and we record it because the information is too precious to lose it. Thank you, Ola. She's saying fantastic info. Yes, Valerie, you're saying I know my ICA. I know their pains because they were my pains.
There you go. And that's what, that's what brings a lot of people into nutrition. I mean, over the years, I've always said we have to sometimes be a little bit careful going into the industry that affected us, particularly if it's like chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, in self-preservation. As in, if that's your ICA, how do you look after yourself? Because I'm going to be honest with you, I put me in a room all day long with stage 4 cancer and I'm completely energized. Put me in one-to-one sessions with chronic fatigue, and it drains my energy. And that's me. I'm not saying that's you. I'm saying that's me. But again, it's always about protection, self-preservation. What can you do? And this will be one of the things that we talk about in the mentorship, is not just how to bring the clients in, but how to look after yourself. Because the truth is, if you are bringing in a client and that client is taking you, for example, 3 hours to prep, maybe you do a 90-minute consult and then 20 hours, and no word of a lie, I've heard this, to write up the plan and do the research and everything afterwards, that's not good value for money. What's good value for money? For me personally, I dedicate about 4 minutes to read their forms. Like Romina said with her hand, I'm in the zone. I'm just in the zone. I don't need any more. That's not me giving my clients a shortfall. And it's like, I know what I'm dealing with. I'm in it. I know what I don't know. And that's what I've got to ask. Afterwards, I dedicate 12 minutes. 12 minutes to write up a plan. So therefore, an hour's consultation at max is an hour and a quarter of my day. But the only reason I can do that is because I look after my energy flow. I look after my brain flow in order to be able to move on to the next one. So, you've also got to think about, is there something about that ICA? And I mean, don't get me wrong, I work in cancer. We have team meetings, and we have 2 team meetings, 2 groups of team meetings. We have the cancer team and then we have the whole team. We do clinical training in the whole team. But this week, my cancer team, one of them's on today's call. Yep, there's been a lot of tears this week because one of them lost a client that it really hit them hard. It's like, it's hard work what we do. But that's why working together as a team is invaluable, because if you're breaking with every one of your clients, that's not going to mean that you're going to make a successful long-term practitioner. You're going to burn out yourself. So again, it's like, okay, what works for me for self-preservation might be different from you, but I have my techniques, I have my strategies, I have my protection. And that's what I'm encouraging you all to do as well. And then you can do this run, 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 run. But that can't come if you're not looking after yourself, because otherwise your clients will drain you.
They would, absolutely. And I think, thank you, Rebecca, for sharing, because again, the reason we've had these sessions is we're doing this because A, we cared, B, we wanted to do it as a session to regroup, to connect with our tribe, but also to remind ourselves, we're not telling you anything new here, but we're reminding you that it's very much a growing industry. There are hundreds of opportunities. And this is just, even if there's a life change, there's a circumstance, or there's a demotivating factor in your life right now, we can always pick up, reconnect with our tribe and try to change our mindset, because that is one of our biggest tools. So Rebecca here said, wonderful session and inspiration, and very timely for me as I get back into practice after a very difficult change of life circumstances. I hear you, Rebecca, and I think Jo said the same thing when she had the baby during COVID, had to pivot her business. It's not easy. And I feel like without the mindset piece, Jo, you wouldn't have, I think it sounded like a breakdown to me, what you were saying. Having
Yeah,
a
and you have to,
during
so
COVID.
often you have to break down to break through. When I say break down, it's not like a nervous breakdown, but it's about truth to you. And this is why I'm not afraid to talk about this, to you, to my team, even to my clients, because I'm showing them I'm human. Do you want me to stand up on stage and be that everything you're not by pretending I'm not human? It's like when people say, oh, I'm embarrassed to talk about my bowel movements because there's a single person out there that doesn't poop or doesn't have periods. But there's also not a single person out there that doesn't have a mental health. So you stand there and pretend that you have it all together, and that's not what people want to hear, because we all have life challenges. Every single one of us have life challenges. God damn, this physical life is hard going. So if you pretend that you don't have them, your client will see right through it. And that does not mean I sit and cry with my clients. It means I'm human. And that's what people want to see, humanism.
Absolutely, Joe. And I wanted to say that, I love your 12 minutes plan, and so does Helen. This is what I want to hear in the next sessions with you, Joe.
Yeah, and we can
Give us
talk
more of
about this
that 12
because
minutes plans and
yeah, we'll talk about strategy. So, gosh, it's hard going. Are we going to do all this in 3 months? Yeah, we can put it together. How do we put together how to create a business model, how to get the clients in, how to look after yourself, and how to deliver everything without burning out so that your time per hour is genuinely your time per hour, not your
there are a
time.
lot of techniques there that I think both of us have learned over the years, but I feel like you've had a lot of coaching behind you, Joe, that
Yeah,
I think you can share with us. And I agree with
absolutely.
Rachel. I'm in awe of that 12 minutes treatment as well. 20 years in practice, and I've got it down to 25 minutes at the very minimum.
Well,
That's what
that's
Rachel
pretty
is saying.
impressive, Rachel. That's pretty impressive. Remember, I just see a lot of clients that have possibly practiced more than anybody else.
And thank you for sharing it with everybody else that may be interested in this. Again, we haven't devised it yet, but if you have any thoughts, you have anything you'd like us to do for that mentorship, then please let us know. We'll make sure to integrate that in the 3 months. Right now, we're just doing this as a way to connect with you. We truly believe we're a community. And as Joe said in the beginning, this is a market that's exploding. Functional medicine and nutrition, we're doing conferences in Dubai, we're doing conferences in Dublin, and I've seen the amount of interest from medical doctors and other specialties that are now interested in what most nutritionists already know. But there is a demand, there is an opportunity for referrals, and there's a huge opportunity to become the best in your field. I think this is a huge opportunity. We're just a handful of people in the world, and there are thousands of clients and patients with chronic disease. So I feel like you've hit the nail, Joe. Thank you, everyone. It's just been very, very heartwarming to see all of you and your smiles and to see you in person. That's why we want to do more of these mentorships. Both the Rachels, I think you're wonderful. I've met you in person. So, Luis, it's very kind of you. Zara, it's really nice. Kay, so many of you. I hope it was beneficial. We will be in touch. We'll send you the recording. Keep doing what you're doing. I'm very proud of where you are already, because I think just choosing this profession is an act of courage. Just deciding that whether the NHS supports you or not, whether everybody believes in this or not, you are doing this. At IPM, I think what struck me most is we had a nutritionist come in and say, it's too hard to do this on my own. And equally, we had an oncologist that came to us and said, it's too hard to do it on my own. There's too much red tape at the NHS. I want my tribe. I want to do this together, and I want other modalities to come together. So for us, we're building a community here. We're not just saying we're doing this for the business, but we're building a community where we can all come together and work together in partnership. Any
Thank you,
last
Romina.
words, Joe?
No, thank you. Thank you to everybody. And I think one of my passions is, it always has been, 11 years of teaching at C&M, more than 15 years of lecturing postgraduately. One of my passions isn't just about the difference I make on the ground level, it's my difference that I make in my community. And I want to continue to make that difference in the community, because I feel that there's room for each and every one of you to have that position. Sometimes the limiting factors is your confidence, is your belief system, and that's what I want us to be able to work on. Yeah, I can't remember who it was. Working alone is lonely, but why do you need to work alone when you've got community?
100%, 100%. Thank you, Joe. Thank you everyone for joining. We're here with you. You know, feel free to drop us emails, even if it's just a business idea you want to share or anything. You know, I'm here to any questions you have or anything I haven't answered about how we set up Nutrition Health Collective. And if you are, please try to join our conference on the 20th, exactly 1 month from now, online or in person. We'd love to have you there. We will record the session as well. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, all of you.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye-bye.